Well, it's
Terrible.
it's Rodney Hearth and it's Maurice Belden. You can't get more outrageous than that.
You
Welcome,
can't.
Maurice.
Okay. Now, Rodney, let me just say something straight away. For those of you who think that don't know me, I'm wearing dark glasses to sort of look cool. It's got nothing to do with that. Some time ago, about 4 years ago, I wore glasses for reading, etc. And I heard about this operation where they put the lens inside the eyes. And I thought, that sounds really good. I'm too old for laser. So I went to the Kiron Hospital here to a wonderful doctor, surgeon, and she said, yes, that's no problem, as long as you have the money. And they put the lens inside my eyes. And it's fantastic. It was about 4 years ago. I haven't had any problem at all, except for one thing. In light, in bright light, my eyes water. So she told me to wear glasses, tinted glasses, what have you. So I'm not trying to be cool or anything. You'll have to forgive me. It's just the way I am.
Was that cataracts?
Yeah, it starts that way. It's a whole business like that, and I must be the only person on operating theatre when the surgeon, she's a woman, said, "Would you ever shut up talking?" I thought that, and everyone in the theatre started laughing. I said, but I'm not asleep yet," and she says, "Stop talking. You
Oh,
have to cooperate."
well, there you
So
well,
there you are.
story of your life, Maurice. Let's be honest. I
Not
tell you
talking.
what, I've just come back from Mercadona, going from east to west, and the sun at this time of the year when it's low,
Yeah,
it's
terrible.
dangerous.
It is hard to drive. It really is hard to drive. And actually, I'm looking to Mercadona. I'm doing this thing called Dinner for a Fiver. It's one of my new cooking programs. Now, I can't cook. Uh, I've never cooked on my own, but I do a few dishes. And the one that I'm best known for, is my attempt to poach an egg. And many years ago, Rodney, I used to be able to walk into Mercadona or any of the supermarkets, and people come over to me and either said, "I love your radio show," or "I hate your radio show. You're a big egotistical bastard." That's what they would say. Now it is, "Hey, Mars, how's your poached eggs?" I can never get the poached egg right until I discovered how to cheat.
Go on.
And okay, this is it. And this is going out to the Rodney Hart show, an exclusive. So what you do is you boil an egg for 5 minutes, not a minute more. Boil an egg for 5 minutes. And then you peel it. And then you scoop it on the toast, which it pours onto toast. In fact, even a quicker way, just take the top off it as if you're going to eat it and just scoop all the egg out. And you've got a poached egg, soft, beautiful, excellent. And I have it every morning for breakfast. There
There
you
you
are,
go.
the cheating poached egg.
Do you put vinegar in the water?
Now, hold on, Rodney. Take a deep breath. Before the next hour and a half, I'll tell you every single a bit of advice that has sent to me. Vinegar and water, clockwise, wise, da, da, da. Forget it. None of them I can get right. None of them I can get right. And eventually I got this right. I mean, yes, I sometimes get it right by a fluke, but this is guaranteed every time. Tastes like a poached egg, looks like a poached egg, but it's not a poached egg.
Well, every egg has got about 6 grams of protein. And at your age, you need protein.
Well, thank you, doctor. Thank you very much. Well, protein. Have you ever heard of paraprotein?
Yes.
Go on,
Well,
doctor.
it's usually made out of peas.
Well, you're close. Urine.
Oh,
Paraprotein is found in your blood and your urine. Now, as most people who get to my age of 40, they need to have medical checks once a year, as you probably are the expert worldwide, for prostate, etc., which I have. And I tell you why, Rodney. I'm the son of a doctor, both mother and father. And I am a total and utter hypochondriac. Total, I mean, total. My doctor's Dr. Victoria. Every time I go in there, she said, "Sit down. There's nothing wrong with you. Go away. I don't need to examine you." But at one stage, when you probably have this, I've probably had it because you're 90 or something. You have your blood test every year, and that blood test is five different things. You know what I'm talking about now. And in one of them, they found like something to do with kidneys. So the doctor said to me, right, what we'll do is we have to check your paraprotein. I said, really, within your blood and urine? I said, fine. He said, okay, how do I do that? And he said, no, it's fine. We'll do a bone biopsy. I said, you will in your dreams. What are you going to get a drill and drill into my bone? Oh, you sort it. I said, yeah. I said, forget it. No, I said, okay, but I need to be sedated. Now, I'm one of these people like Michael Jackson who enjoys being sedated. I love that warm feeling they give before you go out cold. You know what I'm talking about,
Well,
Rodney?
if that's your thing, that's
Rodney's fallen asleep. So they give me this protein, this not protein. When I go into the theater, and I always say, give us a little bit, and you get this just high as a coot from it. And Michael Jackson used to have that every night to go to sleep, but it killed him, and his doctor went to prison over it.
Are you
It's the
talking
same.
nitro oxide, like the dentist used to use a lot?
Yeah, I don't know. There is a few names for it, but you probably got it there. Anyway, I went in to have this bone marrow test, and so I wouldn't. He said, just they're so casual. It wasn't even in a theater. It was in a private bed, I think. He said, lie down there on your stomach, please, and pull up your shirt. I said, no, nothing until the guy comes in. It's like when I go to the dentist, I will not open my mouth until I'm frozen enough to dribble coffee for a week. And I'm lying there, and he comes in, and the anesthetist comes in, and he puts a little thing on within seconds. I said, can I count backwards? 10, 9. Yeah, try. You can count whatever you want. Bang, I'm gone. And so when I was awake, I said, I'm okay. Am I okay? And he said, Maurice, it has to go to the laboratory. It'll take, 10 days. That's the worst thing. And I waited that 10 days. And I remember sitting outside on the Ciaran waiting to go in to see the surgeon. And I'm in my mind, yeah, it's bone cancer. You've got a week to live. And I had it all there as I walked in. And I walked in, he said, congratulations, everything's okay. I said, what? Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Yes, fine.
And how much was that? Ka-ching.
But that's the interesting thing, Rodney, is that Wendy, my wife, said she'll come with me this time to see the surgeon. And I said, why? And she said, because every time you have anything done, even a tooth, you come back with these enormous stories, mostly exaggerated, and no one knows what's right, wrong, or right with you. She said, I'd rather come and listen to what he has to say rather than the rubbish you come out with. So I said to the surgeon, do you mind if I video you? So you can tell my wife what's the thing. And I did. And he spoke to the video on the one condition I don't put it up on one of my TikToks or something. And they explained, I didn't listen to a word he said. I was happy enough when he just said everything's okay. And I had an MRI to follow that up, and I'm actually going to have the result of that on Monday evening. So there you are. So I'm glad you asked me about the protein, but you were right with the P part. That bit you got right, but it's urine, not a packet of
That kind
peas.
of pea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it is any import, I'm the biggest hypochondriac, and I'll tell you why. I spent some time being a city inspector, which doesn't make much sense inspecting cities unless you work for an insurance company. And this was many years ago. And it happened to be the insurance company that would take what they termed as under average lives. In other words, if you got something wrong with you, most insurance companies would say, go away, we don't want to know, we don't want to insure you for life. Whereas this particular insurance company in London said, yeah, we'll start with diabetes and we'll take you on. We'll put the premium up if you're not very well looking after yourself. But I had to interview on many medical subjects all the people that was something wrong with them. Boy, I had every symptom for every disease in the world. Turned me
Hmm.
into a hypochondriac.
Well, they say to go when you go to have an MRI, don't bother because they'll find something wrong.
Oh, yes, there's lots wrong.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had so many MRIs.
yeah, yeah. But of course, Rodney, people probably don't know this about Rodney, because I've known Rodney now for the past 80 years. Rodney has faced death over the last year and numerous of times. In fact, they thought he'd gone a few times, and I'd been kept in touch with his lovely wife. And has he died yet? Because I want the cameras and I want everything. The pastor won't go. He's still here, and I'm glad to see. Of course, I
Well,
am.
it's been a close call. Now we put up with a physio terrorist that try and stick muscle to bone, and that's not easy. But we persevere.
You can't walk anymore, can you?
I can actually now. I've used one of these andadors, which is a walker.
Yeah.
But literally 4 months ago, they said to me, nappies and wheelchair for the rest of your life.
Well, that's a
So,
terrible thing, because that's
oh,
the sort of time you end up in a nursing home.
I did because they had the gymnasium. And we're going to do a program about that shortly. Watch out for that, folks, because there's lots wrong with nursing homes. You don't want to go in them for various reasons.
Okay.
Anyway,
Sorry, it's funny. My cousin in London, myself, he's a well-known dentist, or was. He's old now, he's retired. But years ago, actually, even more so here in Marbella, we have a crowd of guys. We go to have lunch once in a while. There's about six of us. We're all over 60. All right, over 70. And it's funny. Years ago, we'd sit down and we'd talk about, God, that's a good-looking girl there, this and that. All we speak about now is our health. Even one of them turned up with an X-ray. So the subject at a certain age, let me warn everybody, is if you drop something nowadays, you decide whether it's worth picking it up. That is the first thing. Shall I just leave it? Or
yeah.
shall I just pick it up? And that reminds me, I'm going to name drop Rodney right
Oh,
now.
well, that'll
But
make a change. Go on.
yeah. So I have one of my clients, as you know, I'm also in property. I have one of my clients who's got an art collection, quite a substantial classical art collection of oils. She has no idea how much it's worth. It was a late husband brought it into the family, and probably from his family. So it could be worth millions, it could be worth nothing. And so I phoned Sotheby's to see if I could get some sense on this. Sotheby's don't answer the phone. They have this terrible thing where they say, look, I got a clothes peg in my hand. They've got this terrible thing where they say, you have to fill in all these things. And I can't stand any of that. So then I phoned up, I thought, who do I know who collects art, but in a big way, in a serious way? And of course, I remember Jeffrey Archer, Lord Archer.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a program about him. He's been on my show a few times. And I remember seeing a program about him on television. His art collection's so big, he has a warehouse also to hold some of his art, not just on his walls. So I thought, when I ever wanted to interview Jeffrey, Lord Archer, I would phone his secretary, and she then would look at his diary and see if we could do an interview with him. And it was about 2 years ago, I wanted to get in touch with him to do an update interview with him on a podcast. And the secretary had announced, but I have his private number, but you feel you shouldn't use that number. It's his private number, but the secretary didn't pick it. So I tried it, and he did answer. And he said she had died. She'd been with him many, many years, and she had passed on. So anyway, I phoned him yesterday to see about the art collection, because I thought I'm doing him a favor if he wants to buy this art collection. And this is exactly how he answered the phone. Oh, hello, Mr. Marbella.
Oh,
How are you? I was shocked. I said, Jeffrey Archer, how do you remember who I am? He said, I'll never forget you. I said, why? He said, you gave them the rudest question ever aired in my life on broadcasts. And he laughed. I said, well, what's the question I gave you? He said, you asked me when I was in prison, when I was having a shower, if I dropped the soap, would I bend down to pick it up or would I kick it back to my cell? And he laughed again. So he said, I always tell people that someone rude enough to say that's going to be a good guy.
My
And we
goodness
got
me.
on well from that. No.
I was going to say he's had a mixed past like you, hasn't he?
Well, I've never been to prison. I've never done anything illegal. Jeffrey has, and he's been in prison. And people like to think I've done something illegal, but I've never done anything illegal. And yeah, we have nothing in common, to be honest with you.
Well, listen, Amy, going back to my near demise, uh,
Yeah.
I am actually able to walk with a baston. And knowing you're very good at Spanish, you will explain to the viewer what is a baston.
Yeah, the baston. Let me explain it in short. What you do, the best way is, first of all, heat up a pot. You take the baston, put a bit of cream in it, just swirl it around for a while, and then put it in the pot and heat it up. It's delicious on toast.
Yes, I was going to say this is a family show. It's a crutch. So that is a miracle. I shouldn't be here. Secondly, I shouldn't be walking. So I'm very grateful, Maurice.
No,
I
I'm grateful to have you. I was delighted. And I kept in touch. People think I dislike you, but I've kept in touch with your wife while you were in hospital, and to see that you were okay, and et cetera, because you must remember, and this is really important, that I'm Jewish. And that means, unlike you as a Christian, I have direct contact with you know who. So I can actually say the prayers that matter. Now, I know that you as a Christian pray to a Jew, but I'm a first-rate Jew, if you know what I mean, not a second one. And that's how you got cured,
is this
I
where
think.
the adage a leprechaun comes from?
The leprechaun came from Las Vegas with me. But now, I'm involved with the Chabad. You probably do you know what the Chabad are? Just your listeners might know the Chabad, but they're just a sect they've got the long payas and the black hats, and they're young, most of them, and there's a lot of singing and a lot of dancing. And I remember saying to Rabbi Mendy, who is just the most amazing guy here, I remember saying to him that there was a horrible announcement from Israel that soldiers had been killed, and in that same service he's dancing and singing, and I said to you, it's odd that this very, very sad moment that you should and your Chabad should be dancing and singing. And he said, I tell you, the Chabad rabbi in Nazi Germany in the Holocaust, he kept up the singing. And he said to the people who questioned like I did, he said, if you think the Nazis are going to keep me down, dream on, baby, dream on. So they're an amazing crowd of people. But, we all have in common, I suppose, is that we're all basically Jewish, I suppose. I
Well,
mean,
heritage-wise, absolutely.
well,
Jesus was a Jew. People
yeah,
forget Jesus was a Jew.
exactly. Not only was he a Jew, but he came from a religious Jewish family. You could tell he was Jewish because he lived at home with his mother and father. He worked for his father, and his mother thought he was God. That's that's how you could tell he was a Jew.
Oh my
I
goodness me. Well,
yeah.
listen, I have just finished an interview with the chief rabbi in Jerusalem. And I mention that because it's fascinating what is going on at the moment. And
Hmm.
a friend of mine wants to get into Israel and hopefully help the situation. But it's very difficult politically. Now, Netanyahu, of course, is quite, some people say, very right wing and hard line. But
I
he's
think,
got,
I think it need to be pretty hard line, but like you must remember that Israel, from its very conception back in 47, I'm not talking back a couple of thousand years ago, the Arabs would never accept the fact that Israel was there. So from 47, they attacked them. In the Six-Day War, 1960, what was that, 66, whatever, they attacked them. And you bring it all the way up to now. You have a list of all the war. No one can deny them because the attacks, and then you have the list of, and then you bring us up to today. I first want to make it really clear, Rodney, really clear. I am so anti-war. I'm so anti the suffering of innocent people, so anti it. And one of the things I notice, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Islamic fundamentalists or Muslims, that in our service every Saturday or Friday or whenever, because I do prayers every day, Peace is a prominent word in our prayers. Shalom. All the time, it rises its head on that. And we pray, pray, pray for peace. And people say, oh, yes. Look, Rodney, there's a cruise ship came into Greece the other day, and there was a huge demonstration about the Jews. They wouldn't let the Jews off the cruise ship. There was a football match in Birmingham the other day between Maccabi and Aston Villa. I don't follow football. And there was an outcry because Starmer did nothing about the rule, because Birmingham's more or less ruled by Muslims, that they wouldn't allow the Jewish audience flying from Israel. And I watched the news report as it happened. And then my immediate thing is on that is, thank God there was no Jews there. Thank God there was no Jews there. There was about 500. I'm looking at the cameras, they were all Muslims. What would have happened?
And it probably is the same Muslims that are on the pro-Palestinian marches for even through the peace accord.
But that's why.
Get together.
Yeah, that's why that people don't understand about this two-state solution. Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Qatar don't want a two-state solution. They want from the river to the sea. They want Israel not to exist. That's not going to happen. So when you ask Hamas, what are they hoping to achieve? They've achieved everything they could achieve. They've turned the world against Jews in Israel. They're not going to get Israel. They're not going to get it. That's it. And these people who talk about genocide, if Israel, one of the strongest armies, recognized one of the strongest militaries in the world and air forces, if they wanted to commit genocide in Gaza, the war's over. They just would have killed. They would have warned everyone. It's like, would the English warn the Nazis to get out of the way they're about to bomb? So there's over 2.5 million or 2.2 million Palestinians alive. If there was genocide, there'd be no one alive.
A lot of people are not given the truth in the media. This has been illustrated, of course,
by the BBC,
who are truly awful. What they did about the January the 6th event is unbelievable.
They refused to call Hamas terrorists.
Well, it's even worse if you look at the BBC Arab service. They're so pro-Hamas on that channel.
Well, you know, the BBC were found out. Well, you know, they were found out on 2 counts, well, many counts, but they found out they did a documentary from inside Gaza, meant to be, where a television station is meant to be neutral. And they did this thing from inside Gaza. And who presented it? The son of one of the Hamas.
That's it.
But even more so, last week.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Israel.
And Panorama last week repeated another very similar thing, and I turned it off.
No, you're right.
What a lot of people are not realizing is the palpable fear in the Jewish community in United Kingdom. Now, I've got a lot of Jewish pals in North Manchester, and that's where, of course, the synagogue was attacked.
Yeah.
Yom Kippur. Now, having said that, I was not aware if you wanted to go into a Jewish shop, because one of my pals sent me, he wanted kosher food. And there's 2 doors. It's like Banco Santander, but worse. They first of all have to key in a pad for the outside door. When they're in, they key in another pad to get in the shop, a corner shop. No wonder the Jews are frightened. I don't blame them.
It's disgraceful to think that these people who are insulting the fact of a person being a Jew, no crime, is that Jesus was a Jew. You would think there would be a much different attitude to that, to the people who are on these marches. People say that the Jewish people also join these marches. Jewish people don't want this war anymore. They don't want death anymore. They want peace. But you cannot make peace with anyone whose mandate is to kill Jews and to destroy Israel. That's the mandate. So that's why Hamas continue. There's no continue. They're not going to win anything. There's nothing going to win.
Another thing
So,
that the members of public don't realise, they have a number of books, the Muslims, and it's in several of them, and it says, if you see a Jew behind a stone, go behind the stone and kill him.
well, I don't know that. I don't. There's a passing death to the infidel or something. Death to the infidel. If you don't go their way, then you don't deserve. You deserve to die. I got into trouble. I don't know if I related the story to you, but I used to interview a guy called Anjam Chowdhury. Anjam Chowdhury. He was the Islamic fundamentalist preacher in London, who was when the bodies came back, the British soldiers came back. He was with his friends, all clapping and cheering for them. He's in prison now at the moment. But I got a phone call one day when I was in the real estate office, and the receptionist said, "There's someone on the phone who wants to speak to you, but he only speaks Spanish." And I said, "Well, see what he wants." He said, "Well, he's the security police of Spain, and they want to speak to me." And I said, "Yeah, ask him, is his name Paddy or Dave or John?" With the wind up. So she came back and said, "No, he insists on it." And he also says, "Where would you like to meet him?" So I said, "Okay, I'd like to meet him tomorrow in El Corte Inglés upstairs in the coffee bar." And she said, "Okay, 10 o'clock. I took Wendy because she's fluent in Spanish. We went at 10. I said, "Wendy, this is a wind up. There's going to be no one there." Anyway, 10 o'clock, no one was there. 10:05, no one was. I said, "Come on, let's go." And Wendy said, "Relax." This guy came in. He was in his 40s. He had a pair of jeans on, a plaid shirt. Came straight over to our table. There wasn't many people there. And he took out a police badge, but you could see it was the real thing. It was a heavy police badge. He took out a little black book and sat down. He said he wants to ask a couple of questions. He said on the 2nd of June last year, 2 years ago, he said, you spoke to a Mr. Anjam Chowdhury on the phone. On the 16th of September, again, you spoke to Anjam Chowdhury on the phone. What was the conversation about? And Wendy, my wife, said, Maurice has a radio show, and he was interviewing them. And the police, they said, "Oh." And he closed his book and he said, we just got the call. So it just shows, even here in Spain, any terrorist or anything, it puts the red light on them. They monitor what's going on.
Let me tell you something else about the mainstream media. A lot of it doesn't come out truthful. It's fake news.
Oh, watch that. I don't like Donald Trump. You sound like him now.
Well, I mean, you're not well, Maurice, but we'll not touch on that. But what was I going to say?
You can touch on Donald Trump anytime you want.
I know with you. You've got a situation here whereby Sir Keir Starmer
Oh, God, don't.
Yeah, well, he's worse, you're right.
Oh, God.
Recognized the Palestinian state. And what did Netanyahu do? Well, I'd have done the same, basically. He said, hang on, we have saved the UK, and this is true, on 17 occasions from being got at, bombed in the last 12 months. Because Mossad are pretty smart.
Mossad's done, yeah. Mossad saved America billions and millions.
Jews have got very sophisticated listening and communications equipment.
That's Mossad.
And if you're going to do that, said Netanyahu, then that's the end of our special relationship. This is very dangerous for the UK.
Very. Yeah, and I don't blame them. You know, the thing is that Israel recognizes the UK as the state of Palestine. That's a joke, but you shouldn't be laughing. Israel recognizes the UK as the state of Palestine. Because when Starmer said he recognizes the state of Palestine, everybody, where is this state? Because you must remember, in 2005, Israel handed Gaza over to the Palestinians. Gaza the size of where it's the size of I can't remember this fabulous island. Anyway, they not only did they move, I don't know if you know this, not only did they remove every Israeli there, and there's many videos you can see. Singapore, it's the size of Singapore. Gaza is the size of Singapore. Not only, and Singapore is a great tourist place, but not only did they remove the Israelis, but on video you can see them being pulled out of their houses, IDF pulling them out, screaming. There's their homes in Gaza. They cleared Gaza out. Not only did they clear Gaza out, but they removed all the bodies, dead people who were buried in the thing. And they also left a multi-million-pound business, flowers, the flower, beautiful flowers for export business. They have greenhouses, huge, huge, huge. Well, as soon as I said, there's your state. There it is. You have it. Beautiful beaches, beautiful sea, the Mediterranean. You have everything. And we'll supply you with electricity and water until you set up your own thing. What do? They invited Hamas, one of the world's most dangerous terrorist organizations, to take control. They immediately smashed up all the greenhouses, smashed up all the business. Billions poured in aid to help, and that was put into tunnels. And the Hamas leaders took themselves off to Qatar and bought luxury houses and Rolls Royces and everything. Palestinians got nothing. They never got a penny of it. So this underground, and let me assure you, these underground tunnels, they weren't building a subway. I can promise there was never going to be a tube there. But there's more miles, 300 miles or something, this tiny place. The people say, are you sure they were under hospitals? And well, where else could they go? These tunnels are under everything, not just hospitals, schools, and what have you. And it's hard when they got to Sanwar. Is it the same Sanwar, the leader? Where was he? He was under the hospital in the headquarters. So all this nonsense. Look, I want the war to finish. I want friendship between the Jew and Muslim. And that reminds me, here in Marbella, the imam of the mosque in Marbella is a great friend of the rabbi. I have many times, the imam has come to garden parties in the synagogue. The president of the Jewish community, Marbella, Rafi Cohen, died. The imam came to the synagogue, to the garden thing, and memorial, and he made a wonderful tear-jerking speech of how much he loved Rafi Cohen. This is an example, I think, to the rest of the world here in Marbella. Yes, we have some people scribbling on the walls now, here and there, anti-Israeli stuff, but thank God we don't have any stupidity here. We want to love our neighbors.
Thing, Maurice, in all this is that we've got to say there are some brilliant, nice, kind Muslims.
Of course.
There are a minority of the wretched ones, let's call them, that will do anything. But I tell you what, we're not talking 1 or 2%. Certainly in the UK, it's much more than that. They want to take over, basically.
No, it's happening. It's happening.
Are stupid enough to let it happen.
No, but they can't do anything now. It's happening. I just listened to a Muslim who's very anti what's happening in England. He was I think for the Times newspaper, and he said, what's happening? It's all planned. They're growing in areas. They're taking like Birmingham, etc., Mayor of London. It's all that. And Sharia law has now been introduced. And it's growing and growing and growing. Within years, it will be all Sharia law. And there's nothing that anyone can do about it. It's gone.
Well, certainly this present outfit can't. Maurice, time has gone. Caught
Good.
Let me get to our original statements about eggs. As you know, we have various businesses. We used to have a lot in Spain. No longer. We have restaurants, a chain of in the United Kingdom. I can give you some cheating chef tips. Like you've given me
I might have heard them, so tell me.
Well, how do you get your scrambled eggs? 90% mix a couple of eggs or 3 together, then they put milk in.
No.
No, you never do that, but most people do. Well, a tip is
a spoonful of water.
No, nada.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
If you want, and you try it, you get 2 or 3 eggs and 2 great big blobby spoonfuls of mayonnaise, and then mix it, and you see the fluffiest, tastiest eggs you've ever had.
Well, someone told me, and I've done it many times. Get the scrambled egg, just get it, and don't overdo it like I overdo everything. But a spoonful of water, and you have the fluffiest scrambled egg you could ever imagine.
That's a capital offence. Mayonnaise is the answer. Maurice, it's been a real joy. And
For whom?
well, certainly not the customer, but nice to chat to you.
I'm glad you're alive. Are you sure you're not an
I'm glad I'm
AI?
alive.
This is maybe AI here. This mightn't be Rodney at all.
Well, it's like I'm like you, Maurice. The last thing that'll go is the mouth. We've got strong jaw muscles.
Well, I want Wendy. I went to a cremation. Jews aren't allowed to be cremated. I went to one behind La Canyada where the cremation center is, and there's the coffin in the middle of the room, and people are sitting either side. And I said to Wendy, when I go, put me in there, but put me a recording saying, "Geez, it's very dark in here. Hello, can anyone hear me?" And that will scare the bejesus out of everyone. Anyway, it's great, Rodney, and I'm glad you're well. And I hope this is one of many. Not with me. Leave me alone. I'm too expensive. But with many more of your interviews. And I'm glad to see you. And again, if you just tuned in and you think, what's that Egypt with the dark glasses on?
Yeah, the explanation. We'll see you shortly, Maurice.
We will.